Creepy facts about your body you're gonna wish you didn't know. Part 1. When you go down or drop on a roller coaster and you suddenly feel your stomach drop, it's not just you feeling nervous. What you're actually feeling are your organs moving. Follow for the next fact.
Creepy facts that will keep you up at night. Part 1. 99% of all species to ever live have gone extinct. 1 in 3 murders go unsolved in the United States. Human heads remain conscious after decapitation for 20 seconds. Babies grow a moustache in the womb and eat it. Your bed gets heavier from mites, dust and dirt.
This will make you never want to go into space. A man named Michael was alone in space with no other humans for thousands of miles. But then he heard static coming from his radio, and Michael had a gut-wrenching feeling. Hello, this is Michael Stanton of the Rising Dawn. Do you read me? Over. A breathless voice then replied, "Thank God. I didn't know how much longer I could survive out here. What's going on? Where are you communicating from?" The voice then said back, "I'm right outside your ship, Stanton. Open the hatch door and let me in." Michael's heart rate quickened. He found the strength to turn off the radio, and then he heard it. "Let me in," the voice repeated, but it wasn't like before. It sounded demonic, and Michael never opened the door. Everyone back home told him he could not have possibly heard those sounds in a space vacuum, but Michael still knew that thing was still out there.
It's just a cigarette and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me and you know it makes me sad.
It's just a cigarette like you always used to do.
I was different then, I don't need them to be cool.
10 animals that kill the most humans. Lions kill 200 people a year. Hippos kill 500 people a year. Elephants kill 600 people a year. Crocodiles kill 1,000 people a year. Scorpions kill 3,300 people a year.
If you are ever walking alone at night, be careful of it. Have you ever heard your name being whispered and you turned around and found that nobody was there? That could have been this creature called Siren Head. Siren Head lures its victims by calling out their name, and when the person finds the source of the sound, it's too late. Look, I used to not believe in any of this stuff, but I've had a lot of supernatural occurrences in the last year, such as walking down the street in the middle of the night and having every single lamppost burn out as I walked past it. Look, I don't know if this is real or not, but always bring a friend when you go on a walk at night. Be safe and follow if you want more creepy and incredibly true stories.
Normal-looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, Part 28. While this appears to be a book with typical wear and tear, the damage at the bottom is from a bullet hole. The math book belongs to 10-year-old Uzziah Garcia, who along with 18 other students died in the Robb Elementary School shooting that occurred just a few months ago. This mirror selfie shows Giovanni Bezerra, a Brazilian anesthetist, who was arrested after assaulting a pregnant woman during her C-section. He heavily sedated her and placed his private part in her mouth for 10 minutes, and is seen in a hidden camera wiping her face with gauze after he was done. This photo shows a group of US airmen who were taken as prisoners of war by Japanese soldiers in 1945. 8 of the 11 men were dissected while they were still alive, and the 3 others were placed in custody. This photo shows Michael and Susan Kuhnhausen after being married for 18 years. In 2006, Michael hired a hitman to kill his wife. However, Susan choked the man with her bare hand, saying, "Tell me who sent you here, and I'll call you an ambulance."
Urban legends that ended up being real, Part 10. Nightwalker. It is a bizarre, otherworldly creature captured by security footage in Fresno, California in the late 2000s. A homeowner noticed strange leg-like creatures appearing in his yard, moving in a smooth, almost gliding motion. When he checked his security footage, he was shocked to see what looked like a pair of long, thin legs with a small head gliding across his yard without any torso or arms. The creatures, now known as nightwalkers, quickly became an internet sensation, with many questioning whether they were aliens, ghosts, or something entirely unexplained. The video shows these strange, almost puppet-like figures moving in a way that appears unnatural, as if they're floating just above ground. A similar video surfaced a few years later in a national park, showing nearly identical creatures moving through a wooded area. To this day, no one has been able to explain exactly what the Fresno Nightwalkers are, and the footage remains one of the most mysterious pieces of evidence in history. If you have the guts, follow for the next urban legend.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 11. Every time you blink, another person in the world dies. And there's actually a website that shows you how many people die in a minute or in a day, how many babies are born, etc., etc. Yeah, it's pretty creepy. For the longest time, toddlers' adult teeth are actually located under their eyes. Imagine they broke through the skin, they would look like some kind of freakish baby zombie monster or something. Dogs can actually smell and map out diseases. Now, we already know how strong a sense of smell is in a dog, and if you were placed in a line and you were the one infected, there's a very high chance that the dog would come sniffing at you. And if your dog's already doing that, then you might want to call the doc. There's actually a place in Antarctica called Blood Falls where it looks as if blood is flowing or spewing out of the side of an iceberg. Kind of looks like a crime scene to me, but we won't tell anybody. And lastly, there was once a woman who was blinded by a bad accident, and she developed multiple personalities, some in which could actually see. You heard me say she was blind, right?
Here are some of the scariest things that have happened on live TV. On August 19th, 1987, American writer David Horowitz was invited to KNBC to do a segment. While he was being introduced, a man named Gary Stolman appeared on set and pointed a gun at David's back. He was let into the studio after falsely stating that he was a guest of one of the hosts. He demanded that David read a statement that Gary had written, claiming that his dad was a CIA clone.
When I began receiving disturbing calls from my parents, which led me to believe that something terrible was going on.
After the statement was fully read, Gary put the weapon down on the table and was apprehended. It was later found out that the weapon Gary used was an unloaded BB gun, and he stated he never intended to hurt anyone.
Can people please stop making really big, scary things and putting them in water like this? This is part 77 of some of the worst mechanophobia things I've ever seen. Now, we've already talked about the German version of this statue, but this one is actually in Alabama, and I hate it. It is absolutely massive. Of course it is. Why wouldn't they be? And she is chilling in water. It is just the head and the knees. You can get on your boat and go and visit her. And could you imagine falling in with this? No. Of course, she is absolutely massive. Check her out compared to these humans. This is her being transported. Can you imagine driving next to this? I wouldn't even be able to drive next to this, much less see it in the freaking water. This is her when she was being sculpted. God, just to think about something that absolutely massive just chilling in water. Why do people do that? Legitimately, why the frick do they do this? She was actually damaged during a Hurricane Sally, a long ass time ago. But she got a makeover, so she's rocking red hair and some really pretty lipstick. Still hate her though. But yeah, would you go check out this roadside attraction? I'll pass.
You are the only person alive on Earth right now. It's called the egg theory, and what I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. So the theory goes that you are actually the only person alive right now. The only consciousness that actually exists. Everyone else is just a figment of your imagination. Your family, friends, strangers you meet on the street, all because your mind doesn't want to feel alone. But this is the scary part about this theory. Since you are the only true consciousness, you'll live every possible life there is and ever will be. So you'll be reincarnated and reborn billions and billions of times until you lived every single individual's life. And then you'll be able to hatch this egg and become a god. That's the theory. You see, the theory goes that the entire universe was created as an egg for the main character, which is you. And once you have lived every human life ever, you will be born as a god. The reason God created the universe was for the main character to understand this point. Every time you victimize someone, you were victimizing yourself. So be kind to people and you're being kind to yourself. And no lie, it sounds horrible, but you wouldn't know if you lived billions of lives already. You probably already lived over 1 billion and you just don't remember it. You probably lived your mom's life, your cousin, the stranger across the street, the blind man you walked past sitting on a bench today. So in actuality, you're me and I'm you. You're the person in the hospital right now with an unknown disease, or the lady at the store right now buying apples. So every single person you know and ever will know was you.
Most people assume that the different colored olives they find at their local delicatessen represent different varieties. However, the primary difference between green and purple olives is simply the point at which they are harvested.
Green olives are picked before they are ripe, while purple olives are allowed to ripen on the tree. Raw olives are naturally very bitter and must be soaked in a solution containing lye and then fermented in brine for 6 to 12 months before becoming palatable. The longer olives are fermented, the less bitter and the more flavorful they become.
Canned olives are sort of like maraschino cherries. Most are artificially colored, unholy aberrations of nature.
The average lifespan of an olive tree is between 300 and 600 years, though many live well into their thousands. The oldest olive tree in the world is on the island of Crete. It is purported to be approximately 4,000 years old and is still producing fruit. A single olive tree can produce up to 20 gallons of olive oil per year.
Stay curious, my friends.
This mother listened as her daughter was mauled by a bear. On August 2011, a 19-year-old Olga Moskolyova went fishing with her stepfather at a river in the village of far eastern Siberia. This area is known for its significant bear population and it's home to one of the largest brown bears in the world. On this day, Olga called her mother and told her that she was being eaten by a bear. At first, she thought her daughter was joking, but then she heard the bears growling and chewing and she realized that this was real. Her mother then called her husband, which is Olga's stepfather, but little did she know he was already deceased. The story is that they were done fishing and were on their way back when they realized that they forgot something. So they walked back to the river and came face to face with a brown bear and her cubs. Olga's stepfather was attacked first and Olga tried to run away, but the bear caught up to her. While Olga's stepfather was already deceased, the bear came back several times to attack Olga until she was dead. But during the attack, Olga was able to call her mother 3 times, and during this call, she told her that she was being eaten by the bear and her cubs. She then ended the conversation by telling her mother that she loved her. The mother called police and they arrived to the location in about 30 minutes and they found the bear still eating her husband's body. Like I said, this area is known to have a lot of bears, so people usually bring protection with them, but it was said that Olga and her stepfather did not. Have you guys heard of this recent case of this stepmother who starved this 4-year-old child to the point where he passed away? If you guys want to skip this short video and watch the full story with all the details, make sure to go on my YouTube channel. I have the video there. 4-year-old Benjamin Cervera, also known as Benji, was a sweet, playful little boy who was living with his mother for the first 2.5 years of his life until his father gained full custody. A year later, Benji's father, Brandon Cervera, met this woman named Miranda Caceres. Miranda was a single mom and had a 3-year-old son from a previous relationship, but despite this, her relationship with Brandon moved really fast and she moved into his apartment only a few weeks after they met. Not long after she moved in, things got very toxic at home and a lot of the anger was put on little Benji. It was said that she would starve him, and when investigators came and looked inside the house, they saw locks on the kitchen cabinets and on the fridge. They also had cameras all over the house, especially inside the kitchen, to monitor Benji and make sure that he wasn't taking any food.
Eventually, it would get harder for him to do so as more locks were put on cabinets and the refrigerator.
Aside from that, Benji was also being hurt by Miranda and his father, apparently, and there are videos and photos of investigators going inside the home and seeing Benji with black eyes and bruises all over his body. Now, Benji's father also contributed to what was going on in the house. There's text messages between him and Miranda where he told Miranda to not feed Benji dinner. He was also aware of all the bruises and injuries on Benji's body, and according to Miranda, he was the one creating those bruises. There were also videos found on Miranda's phone of Benji crying and begging for food, and these videos were sent between Miranda and Brandon. There is so much evidence in this case, but Miranda was the only one who was convicted, and she was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and Benji's father was able to walk free. I was not expecting that at all, but again, if you guys want to watch the full thing with the details and the videos, make sure to head over to my YouTube channel.
The Sodder family is known for the mysterious and tragic disappearance of their 5 children on Christmas Eve in 1945. George and Jeannie Sodder, along with their 10 children, lived in Fayetteville, West Virginia. A fire broke out in their home in the early hours of December 25, 1945, completely destroying their home. While 5 of the children were initially thought to have perished in the blaze, no physical evidence of their remains were ever found. The circumstances surrounding the fire raised numerous questions, leading the Sodders to believe that their missing children may have been abducted. The family conducted their own investigation and never gave up hope of finding their children, but the mystery of the Sodder children's disappearance remains unsolved to this day. The case is considered to be one of the most endearing unsolved mysteries in American history.
Here are some morbid facts about your favorite Christmas movies. The Grinch as a kid was played by an 18-year-old actor with dwarfism. Sadly, he died of heart failure just 2 years after the movie released. Many of the indoor scenes in the movie Elf were shot inside an abandoned mental asylum in Canada called Riverview Hospital. All of the characters in Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas were inspired by hallucinations he had during a fever that nearly killed him. There's a convincing fan theory that suggests Kevin McAllister from Home Alone grew up to become the serial killer Jigsaw from the Saw movie franchise. South Park's Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh originated from when Trey Parker was potty training at age 4. His father told him if he didn't flush his Mr. Hanky, it would come to life and kill him in his sleep. While filming for The Grinch, the thick makeup and prosthetics made Jim Carrey feel like he was being buried alive every day. It became so brutal for him that they had to hire a former CIA agent to teach him techniques for coping with torture.
Something is following me, and I can't tell what it is.
Brother, you're about to die. I'm just kidding, it's a fisher cat, which isn't actually a cat, and apparently they don't even fish because the naming guy had a stinker. Like the guy that named a not an eel an eel, or a not a shrimp, and this not a badger but a honey badger. Speaking of honey badger, they pull up to the same family reunion, and as a mustelid, they're also related to otters and weasels. The fisher cat, not to be confused with the fishing cat that's also real, is basically a travel-sized Wolverine. And don't let the feral ferret fool you, they've been known to run fades with lynxes and win. It's also proven that they'll pass tense a porcupine and live to do it again. And yeah, they're a lot bigger than I thought they were. This is what one about to catch a body looks like. Brother, my guy, you are getting hunted. And just kidding again. He's just being curious. Say that cuz if he was really on timing, you would not be seeing him. Might hear him though. If you've ever been in the woods and heard the sounds of a woman getting escorted off the census, chances are you just heard a fisher family. Or at least that's what I thought. Apparently fishers don't make that much noise in general, and the scream thing is probably a myth. And the more I know. Another myth is that they snatch children. While I'm sure someone in the history of mankind's gotten folded by a featherweight Wolverine, they usually avoid people, so you probably did something to deserve it. So yeah, the cameraman's in no danger, and that's not a fisher or a cat, but it's somehow both. But if the fisher's not a screamer, what is this?
It's an awful sound.
So apparently we know of 69 different alien species. These are just
cataloged 69 different species, different life forms. There's one species that at full adulthood is about 1.5 feet. There's another species that's 10 or 12 feet. The ones that people often refer to are around 3 to 4 feet, 39 inches or so tall. We have very good forensic drawings from men who've been on the retrieval teams of what these various species look like. The reason they keep coming back, number one, it's not a coincidence that the modern era of all this started when we started detonating atomic bombs. What Edward Teller and Oppenheimer didn't understand when they were developing that is that when you detonate an atomic bomb, you get, everybody knows about an electromagnetic pulse, the pulse that goes out, knocks out all electronic communication. What people didn't know about is there's also a pulse of what's called scalar energy. And scalar is faster than the speed of light.
If you drive or know anybody that drives in the UK, you are screwed. I genuinely cannot believe what I'm seeing and how this is actually real. Make sure you share this video with someone that drives right now. Right, so we know there's speed cameras flipping everywhere on the UK roads, right? And only a year ago we had the whole talk about getting 100-mile-an-hour speed limits, and that's not happened yet. Now, of course, we know the typical speed cameras, average speed, ones that now detect your mobile phones, and now this. So these new cameras have been being spoken about for over a year, and now they are actually starting to be tested and rolled out, with the first person actually already being fined £100 and getting points. So what these cameras will do is detect noise from your loud vehicles, but not just that, because it will detect if you're listening to music too loudly as well. So you're cruising along in your car, if you have a fast car that's loud, you could get points. But if you're also just cruising along listening to your music and it's a bit too loud for them, they will be able to tell and you will get a point. Now, we don't know exactly how loud it has to be or how loud the car has to be, but God forbid you're driving a sports car listening to music extremely loud, you are cooked. Make sure you hit that follow button and I'll keep you updated.
Now, we've already talked about one of the other Liverpool giants in a previous video, the one where they lowered it down into the water, but this one is unique. This one eats. Just wait for the video. It is nauseating. Now, as you know, the Liverpool had like a whole thing where they brought in like a bunch of marionettes. They had this guy come in on a boat. They walked him through the town of Liverpool, England, and look how massive it is compared to those people. Look how tiny this little person is compared. Oh God, I cannot even be around these things. Watch this video and let me know how we're feeling.